Next up, we have a presentation from Locality Planning Energy with the ticker code LPE. To tell us more about the company's rapidly growing electricity business, today we are joined by Non-Executive Chairman, Justin Pettit. Good morning, Justin.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
Good, thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. So LPE, we're a fast-growing electricity provider. So anyone who lives in Queensland and New South Wales and are not using LPE as their provider, you should check us out. We're the first to market, we have a first to market technology with regards to our shared solar. Actually, there you go, perfect. We're first to market with regards to technology for our shared solar for apartment living. And also our carbon neutral centralized hot water systems, which I'll talk a little bit about. I'm sorry, can you go 2 slides, Jane? Yeah, that's it. We're currently selling electricity, hot water, solar, and battery systems in Queensland and New South Wales. And we predominantly, a large part of our customer base is based around the strata communities. Could you just go to the next slide, please? We're the 6th largest provider in Queensland on the Energex network. So only 1.2% of the market, but as you can see, there's a lot of room and growth for us to move in. And we're getting a lot of inbound calls now from customers wanting to join LPE. Next slide. As far as the size of the market, the electricity market, particularly in our part of the world, is huge. Not only is $13 billion a year used or consumed in electricity, but in the strata market, which is an area that we're experts in, around just under $1 billion a year. So that's massive. And for us to be able to bring products to this part of the market has been extraordinary and very well taken. Next slide, thanks. I'll just go through our main products. Embedded networks. So for those who don't understand embedded networks, if you take an apartment building, every apartment faces the grid or the network separately, typically, and they all pay their own network charges along with energy charges. What we do is we put 1 meter in between. We aggregate everybody together and we put 1 meter in between all the customers or in the apartments and the grid. And that meter is a business meter. So there's a significant reduction in network charges. Instead of having 100 network charges, we have 1, and we distribute those savings to the end customer. So from a customer perspective, there's really no change. They get a bill from their energy provider, which is us. They get treated as an individual. They're not aggregated. They're aggregated from a metering perspective, but certainly not from an end customer perspective. Next slide. Our flagship project that we're really rolling out aggressively now that we've got network approval is shared solar. Again, those living in apartments haven't had the same opportunities that people living in homes or single dwellings have had and benefiting off solar energy. We've come up with a way to develop building scale solar systems. So we put as big as solar system we can on the roof. It goes through a single inverter and then it goes through a proprietary diverter that's made by Loom Energy. So we're the only ones in Australia, or Loom are the only ones who are making and developed this diverter, which will divert solar electricity in real time to apartments and customers in an apartment building. So we have the exclusive rights to supply and install that Loom product, the diverter, in Queensland and New South Wales for the next 2 years. So it's a great solution. The end customer gets to access solar electricity during the day. They get to save a little money on their electricity costs. We make a better margin. The body corporate are happy and the grid's happy. So it really is a triple win. Next slide. Centralized hot water is also a big part of what we do, again, in apartment buildings or business or commercial. We're heating the hot water with solar energy during the day and distributing that hot water at night. So a lot of our systems are 100% off grid and thus carbon neutral. So using solar energy to heat that hot water. And of course, we do retail electricity supply, homes, businesses, all through Queensland and New South Wales, and that's a very fast growing part of our business as well. As far as our past, I've got a couple of slides talking about customer growth and financials, but you can see here since we listed in 2016, our growth has been quite good, around 30% per annum in customer growth year on year. We set a target of 10,000 customers last financial year, and we achieved and exceeded that target. Next slide. But most importantly, we've had our maiden profit. So whilst customer base has been growing, revenues have been growing. And as you can see on the left there, compared to last year, if I was to put up all the revenue numbers, you'll be able to find a presentation on the ASX on our website. But revenue growth has been strong. Operating costs have been more or less low or levelized. And because of our conservative stance on wholesale energy hedging, we've been able to turn a profit this year. So everything's starting to go in the right direction, and revenue's growing and customer base is growing. As far as the investor opportunity, it's important to point out that even with all of this good news financially, there's still a great opportunity for investors. If I take our market cap or our EV today and also take the value of a customer, we're trading at about a 32% discount to the value of a customer. So our EV is about $8 million less than what our breakup value, I suppose you look at it. So this is just purely based on customers, doesn't take into account the future growth and of course shared solar. Next slide. Our growth strategy moving forward, we really want to build on the FY21. We have 300 shared solar systems that we're looking to deploy throughout the financial year. And it really does overcome apartment living's greatest barrier to solar electricity, who accesses the roof and who pays for the capital up front. So we do pay for the capital up front, and we enter into a long-term 15-year contract with the building, and we recover that capital over time. So from an end customer's perspective, they get their electricity bill. There's a line item for grid electricity. There's a line item for solar electricity that they bought during the month. So it really is a well-received product. Centralized hot water is also something that we're aggressively rolling out. And along with embedded networks, that really is our spine of the company. And we're seeing a lot of, not only are we working with a lot of developers, but we're also seeing a lot of existing embedded networks that are being managed by the body corporate or a billing agent coming across to LPE for a lot better experience. We handle everything, and we're also an energy retailer, so we can supply all of the grid needs, particularly, let's go to the next slide, particularly as a lot of those embedded customers move out of embedded networks into homes or apartments that aren't embedded. So we have around 6,000 customers a year moving out of our embedded network buildings. So we want to capture those customers as retail clients. So really there's nothing in the electricity space that we can't supply, whether it be grid, solar and or batteries. Next slide there. Here's a corporate snapshot. So really tight capital structure. Damien and myself founded the company back in 2013 and listed it in 2016, and we still own a quarter of the company. We hit our guidance last year of 10,000 customers. The financial gains on FY21 compared to FY20 have been fantastic. So we're really at an inflection point. I see over the next year or two, we're certainly poised to begin to deliver those sustainable and year-on-year earnings back to the market. And of course, the board of directors, the company really is run by our CEO and CFO. They do a fantastic job, Damien and Mel, of running the company. And we look forward to updating investors as we go through this next financial year. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks for the presentation. We've had a webinar attendee just come through. So in terms of growth, is the company solely focused on organic growth within its existing business units, or is LPE also looking at acquisition?
We'll look at acquisitions, but probably to answer the question, it is organic growth. We have sales teams in place and very strong body corporate relationships that we leverage on. But we are open to acquisitions. It's always tricky when you get to that stage and talking about value. But yeah, we're open to acquisitions, but we're focused on organic growth.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining, Justin. And of course, copy of the presentation will be available on brokerbriefing.com in the coming days.